Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo today. Today we're going to show off a little bit of what is probably the most game-changing thing when it comes to building structures in Conan Exiles. So I have here a bunch of foundations that are not the foundations that we would always use, but they're for like just railing foundations, and they're really useful. They're fence foundations, and I figured out a way so that you can actually build them all together and they would be stronger than just one foundation. Now this is to improve your footprint plan when it comes to actually setting up everything. So let's say you set up within the 1x1, you put anywhere from 4 to 6 of these fence wall foundations, and it makes it extremely useful when it comes to being a preventable raiding system subjugate, because you have 3 foundation walls that are set up. So you have all 3 of those set up in conjunction on top of everything else. So now you have to not only go through 1 set, but 3 sets. Yes, the tier 2 is only like 300 less than it is for just 1 foundation, but then you do 300 less of that and then times that by 3, and now you have a 3 layer within a 1x1 for what they have. Yes, there is splash damage, and yes, you do have to worry about that as well, because you do take 10 to 20 on vanilla settings. But if you have increased damage for explosives, that could vary on your server. But right now, this is very resource demanding, as well as, on top of everything else, very labor intensive. So in order to get this kind of setup, you're going to probably spend 2.5 to sometimes 3, depending on your style, of this 1x1. Whether you want to have a foundation in the middle or not is going to be one of the bigger things that you're going to be needing. Now, here's my setup that I have right here. So it's a bunch of these kind of foundation fence styles, except for now there's no floor. There's 4 spots for every 1x1. So the raider has to put the bombs right next to where the foundation is. So that means there's going to be less damage, there's going to be less threshold on the doors when they're raiding, as well as, on top of everything else, the person that is shooting the bomb has to stand directly over it, or they would have to knock it over from below. Now we have trebuchets. This trebuchet design is because of all the demon fire that is on the server. So let's say we have just a straight up wall foundation with the fence wall foundation. That's the tier 2 one all the way to the right. And then we have the tier 2 just regular foundation right next to it. So I did my experiment using 13 bombs. 13 bombs on tier 2 fence wall, as well as tier 2 foundations. So now we're going to keep going back and forth, and we're going to just keep shooting, and it's just marginal damage increases. Now, because of the bleed effect, or the flame effect for the corrosiveness of the demon fire barrages, you have what is happening to the biggest degree, where it's just going to keep throwing over and over and over again. But at the same time, it's doing splash damage. It's not getting through every layer. It is still going to be a force to be reckoned with, whether it's tier 2 or tier 3. Because a tier 2 is taking just as much as a tier 3 setup with this kind of fence wall foundation setup. It takes just as much as a tier 3. So now you gotta weigh your options. Do I want to have a tier 2 fence wall foundation setup, or do I want to be able to have steel and tier 3? So those are the 2 biggest things where you want to have. So you're going to be having equal amounts on both parts when you're going to be being attacked by demon fire barrages. Now this is the last one that is fired, And as you can see on my tier 2 fence foundation setup, it's still standing, and there's still a piece left onto it. Now, as you can see, for what I'm going to accelerate on this portion of the video, when it comes to the actual foundations for the tier 2 foundations, it's just going to rip straight through it, through and through. Now, we're only about 3 bombs in, and we've already destroyed almost the majority of it. We only have 1 block already. Now we're 4 or 5 in, and we're just completely decimating it. It doesn't even take that much at all. Look, we have still half left for the tier 2, where it took almost all of our barrages for the tier 2 foundation fences. Now we're going to tier 3. Still same setup. Alright guys, we still have tier 3 when it comes to foundation fence. I keep fucking forgetting. Foundation walls, and they're extremely nice when it comes to taking damage, including splash damage. So if you're getting raided in a conventional way, where they're using bombs, they're not going to get through. They're probably going to waste a shitload of bombs just to get through. If they use a demon barrage, they're probably going to get through, but they're going to use a lot more resources than they probably intend to. Now, my best assumption for this is that you should have probably one of the best options. And as you can see for the tier 3 fence wall right in the distance, they still have 1 full wall, so they didn't get in. They used 13 demon barrages. That means they used 26 explosives to get through 3 layers thick. Now, I use the 3 layers thick is because that's probably what the extent of anybody's going to do for a big wall setup, is to have a 3 thick wall. If you do anything more than that, then on some servers you're wasting your time, unless you're on a 10x or something like that, or even a 3 to 5x with your harvesting. Even with vanilla harvest gather, this is still reasonable to a degree if you have a couple of farmers onto your clan. So now we're using the tier 3 just straight up foundations, and it's just getting annihilated. Like, first our job was to destroy the top like it was before onto the wedge foundation walls, and now you have to deal with the last one, which is just the regular tier 3 foundations. Now we have gone through probably a little bit more than half, and we did not. It's just so amazing that it just does not work. So now I'm incorporating a little bit of a trap-based design when it comes to this, as well as like trying to figure out the exact route when it comes to everything. Destroying stairs properly, destroying different kind of setups. Now, what you can do is you can also put a large chest at the very bottom of these, which you'll see later on in the video. But right now, what I will say is that you can also trap people down there, like I showed in the earlier video. But if you make it like as a balancing act, you can also use that as a trap as well. Now, for what I'm going to be showing here is a unique way to use these foundation walls in order to make a spring trap. So you can be from the side watching for somebody running into your base, and then you just open the door on the same level. Not like for what I did on my previous video, where it's a multi-level structure, where it's off-tiered and they can't really see you. But this one, you can do it on the same tier, all thanks to the fence wall foundations. They are walls. I will call them walls because they're the height of a regular wall, and they're really useful. I am glad that I found out this new building technique for everybody, because this one technique changes everything. That means you can have 2 different mounting points at the very middle of a foundation. This changes everything when it comes to building. Everything. You can build, I would say, about another 6 different techniques just because you can cut the foundation right in the middle, and you can make sure that everything can be done. So when you are setting up a completely different way, YouTube comments, I have notifications on for everybody, just to let you know, so I can read your comments as quickly as I can. But here's the thing when it comes to the design that I have right here. I've designed this for a solo player that's on like maybe a 5x, 10x. Then if you have like maybe a 3 to a 5x and you want to play with maybe like 3 players of yours and you just want to be left alone, first of all, I will always recommend a base on that's on a cliff or that's on a pillar, because they're easier to defend. Now, if a god goes through, you're still going to be fucked. But if you don't have a god that's going to be affected upon your own self, then you're going to be fine. There's a couple other things when you have to worry about these multi-level setups. First of all, make sure whatever you have on the roof, and I do mean whatever you have on the roof, you put a door on that, because people are going to trebuchet into your base, because yes, that is a thing. They're going to try to make a raid tower and go into your base, or they're going to be trying to just annihilate one of your walls, and then maybe a raid tower, maybe you have a way that they are going to jump up into your base. So I will always recommend building on a pillar, because it's one of the easiest ways to defend your whole complex. I will say it this way on top of every other regard. So, the bigger things that I do recommend as well as putting like your small rooms, like a furnace or something, and you put it in a 1x1, because if they're not clever, they can't get your gear. Now, you might as well grief the players, whether they're online or offline, if they're raiding your base. And if they're not smart enough and they don't drop a bag, that means they get screwed, they lose the gear, they can't do anything like that, because it's just an apocalypse of information. And then you're just like, well, why did I do this? What happens? What is going on? The bigger thing when it comes to actually having these kind of traps, which are underneath, is so that you're going to make them fall. Alright, so now with the balancing act and a couple half walls that we have up between this 1x1, we're going to be setting up so that they're going to have to use as much resources, and they're going to underestimate every single door that comes through here. So again, with a solo base with 1x3, when you have a spacing so that they can't immediately jump glitch. Now, if you're fighting a big Zerg, you pretty much lose in almost every circumstance. But when you have a spacing between here and another floor, it makes it so that it's very important. So if you have a spacing between your first, your second, and then your third floor, it makes it so that the raiders are going to have a hard time jump glitching into your next tier for where a majority of your loot is. So when you're going to be scattered around and having everything else like that, you want to make sure that you have the right tools and everything that you need for the proper specs. And I would recommend doing this strategy on both sides, but for this side, I am showing just one side. You can do another fence wall foundation, but I like having a little clean cut getting into my base, so everything would be cool. And now I'm working on the third story once I have that broken open. So this is meant to be done in sections with a clan, with crew members, and even if you're solo, this should be done within segments, because if you do it all in one shot, you're gonna get screwed. So what I have is upstairs I designed so that majority of the stuff are going to be in 1x1s, just like I did with my other trap phase video that I had myself underneath, 30 trap phase video. The reason why is so that you can have all of your furnaces and stuff in the rooms. Now what you can see right here right now is that you can actually put large chests at the very bottom, and if you disguise it right, you can make it so that they think that it's just a foundation wall setup so that you don't get fell down if you put a fence right next to it, and it makes it so easy when you're placing things. Now the reason why I put fences on both sides is so that while you have your last final stand, you're gonna get screwed. And as you saw right there, I got stuck in the floor. I'm just trying to find a place to put an armor's bench around here because I forgot to think about an armor's bench. And I'm like, come on, I gotta find a place to put it somewhere. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna put it outside. Sometimes you might have to put a design outside because that clips through the ceiling if you make it 1 story high. So I would recommend having a 2-story no matter what there in one space or regard. And now what I'm going to be working on is a bridge trap. So if they use explosives right here, now I would recommend doing this earlier, but this is the point of the build, is that it's based on your own speed, your own interpretation, where you can be like, yeah, we did it this way. Alright, so again, it's a very simple bridge trap. Make a tier 1 underneath tier 2 shit so that people can't get in and they would have to blow up the explosives underneath. What I'll say right now is definitely comment down below for what you guys think about this kind of new design that's going to be here. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to see your guys' designs half-walling everything. Please give me those photos down below in the comments as well. I love seeing people's faces. I really honestly do. It's probably one of the best things out there is to show innovation to each other, especially when it comes to Conan Exiles, where you can just god the fucking place if you're on a god server. All the servers that I've been playing on, though, right now, don't have gods. And I'm going to be honest with you, gods right now definitely need to get a big nerf. And besides that, I mean, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this kind of shit, because right now, this is lovely. And I love building on this kind of video game. So, have a good one, everybody. Enjoy your video.